You're listening to Sudbury News Talk.
I want to show you something.
Stand by. On the morning shift.
Anything
could happen.
Sudbury News Talk on the morning shift.
And good morning. Welcome to Sudbury News Talk on the morning shift. I'm AJ Walsh. Thanks for being with us. And being with us every day, being part of this community conversation that we so much enjoy having with you. And it's growing, and we're happy that it is, because the more that we can have more people in a conversation, the more we feel connected, and the more that the local issues that we have, we don't feel, that we don't really have a voice, or, at least talking about them and talking to people about them, is therapeutic to some degree. And you just never know when other people hear good ideas, the ones that are in the positions that influence and make decisions actually hear them and understand them. And so this is one of the reasons for the show. So thanks for listening to us on CKLU 96.7 FM. Sudbury's campus and community radio. It's been around since 1984. You can, go on their website, listen to it there. You can listen to it while you're driving to work, on a standard radio, online. You can download the Radio Player Canada app. You can listen to us that way. And on Facebook Live, you can catch Sudbury News Talk each and every morning, 7:30 to 8:30. We are live, and you are a part of the show. So Facebook Live, YouTube Live, and make sure to comment. Right now, we're seeing our comments on Facebook Live. We're not too sure about the YouTube ones, if they're coming into our switcher that we use for broadcasting, but we'll know that in the future. And the show is a work in progress. So welcome to our Facebook monitors. Welcome to the YouTube monitors. You have a job to do. We're thankful for you. We're grateful for the platform. We know that without it, we wouldn't be able to have such a robust conversation and be able to reach as many people as we can. So thank you to you. And thank you to our guest who's with us today. He was called the best guest ever last week. So he has that title until otherwise noted. And that is, of course, Pierre Bonhomme, who's with us now. Good morning, Pierre. How you doing?
Good morning. You're putting me under pressure here. So it's one of those things where you're only as good as your last performance. Is that it?
Well, it sounds like it could be that, but unfortunately or fortunately, I do know you very well, and I know you'll be able to live up to that title. And I know it is what it is. So yeah. So thanks for being with us this morning, because we have been, messing around with the ideas of podcasts and things for a while. I've had the Sudbury News thing. You've had your podcast that we've done a few beta tests on. And so with that, now we're going to do a little bit different order in the show. Usually I get the weather out of the way and some sports, but because you're only with us till 8 o'clock today, I thought maybe we just utilize your time and have a conversation with you, and then maybe get to those other things later. So tell us a little bit about what you've been doing for the ideas for your podcast, and even in your professional life. Give us a little bit of an update.
Well, lots going on. This is my first week where I am where I left a position that I had before, and kind of working as a contractor now, sort of semi-freelance, but working with a couple of organizations. So that's pretty exciting. Two very different spaces, really. One is kind of in the financial space, Canada-wide, and the other one is in the wellness space for 50-plus seniors in Sudbury. So I'm basically doing project management, event coordination, communications for those two clients. So that's really exciting. So getting on with that now, and just kind of getting into the routine of it. So the podcast is actually going to play a big role, because I think I'll explore some cool ideas in depth, for an hour and a half, and really dive in and see how things evolve there.
Yeah, and I think we did it like a few test runs on your podcast, idea, and I think it went really well. I think
Yeah,
I think
I
it's going to
really
be a good
enjoyed
thing.
it.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's you put pressure on yourself to have this very specific focus, and I find the podcasts that I enjoy the most are the ones that just kind of ramble and chat and have a conversation instead of an interview. So it's because it's hard to just relax and have the conversation and let time flow, So that's kind of what I have to work on there, but I think it'll be okay. I got some good feedback, and I've sent it out to friends and stuff. People enjoyed it, so I'm not going to edit. That's going to be my rule. I'm not going to edit. Originally, I was going to chop it, but I
Just
think
going to let
I'm
it
just
be
going to.
organic. It's just going to be
Yeah,
organic.
yeah,
Yeah, and
warts and all.
I think it's it's the idea of being a fly on the wall, right? When it is that just conversational podcast. You're just listening to people being themselves and just sharing it. It's kind of like when you had a family member visit when you're a kid and you hadn't seen them for a while, and they're just so their stories are they have an exciting life to some degree, or they're doing something that really interests you, and they're sitting around the kitchen table and the family's around and they're telling their story, and you're just there. And as a kid, you don't even really participate in the adult conversation very much, but you're just in awe of the conversation and you just enjoy listening to it. That's what I find when you're listening to a really really good podcast. You're kind of like, you feel like
Yeah.
you're a part of it, but you're not really a part of it.
And you really get to know people. Like I listen to a lot of podcasts, and I probably listen to, I'm going to say, at least 2 hours a day. And you really get to know these people when you listen to the same ones over and over. Like I tend to do them in sequence. So if I discover somebody I like, I'll go right to the beginning and just do them all. And by the end of it, their kids' names, everything about their marriage, all their stuff. So it's a pretty cool, thing. I'm going to keep mine a little. I'm not going to be that personal with mine. I'm going to keep it professional, but
I'll
definitely
just
we'll
let
have
you know
some.
it's very hard to do that, Pierre.
Uh-huh.
It's very hard
Yeah.
because when you're in the moment of the conversation and something comes to your mind from your life that totally applies, then you do the little filter for a second and you go, yeah, it'll really add to this conversation, and then eventually you run into the same thing where you're sharing details about your life because it goes as part of the conversation.
Well, when we were just before getting on here, I was looking at the news and looking to see what would be interesting to talk about and stuff. And then there's one story that's actually not listed here, and I thought, oh, can I bring this up because it involves a friend, but it's a crime story. But I won't mention the friend's name. But I can talk about the area, but exactly that. It's sort of what's that fine line between what's gossip, news, and private information. So.
Well,
I
now
guess
that you said that, Pierre, what are you able to share
okay.
that
So
you know?
I'm paying a lot of attention lately to crime
Yeah.
and small crime, petty crime. Um, Even though it's not local, my brothers, I have two brothers who live in Los Angeles, and one of my brothers lives in kind of just a nice, decent, normal, middle class neighborhood, way out in the valley. And in the last couple of years, they've had a serious rise in crime, and there are now encampments in front of his house. People living in
Wow.
van.
I've
Yeah.
heard of that, and so that is happening to him in real time.
This would be like living on Woodbine Avenue in Sudbury, somewhere like that. And there are 4 or 5 vans parked right in front of your house, and people barbecuing on the sidewalk, pooping in buckets, using the fire hydrants, tapping into electricity, and the police don't come. So and his house is, it's not a wealthy neighborhood, but his house is worth, 750 grand or something like that because of it's Los Angeles, and nothing they can do. So I'll just say that many of the neighbors have been taking gun courses in California, which is a very non-anti-gun place. So bringing that locally, a friend of mine just yesterday, what day is today? Monday. So Saturday night, they live on Ramsey Lake on the North Shore, and their street had a bunch of cars broken into, and somebody left a wallet in the car, which was not a smart thing to do. So everything was taken out of the car. There was a bunch of stuff in there. There was golf equipment. There was wallets. Who knows what else was in there? But a bunch of neighbors on the streets I believe it was, Harry Crescent and
Yes.
Lakeshore. Yeah, and they were home. So, the lady of the house was, she woke up and the car was smashed and everything. So she was terrified because she said, what if I was alone at home? The doors weren't, may not have been locked, the patio door and the sun deck, all those kinds of things. So just something to think about. It's a weird, and I know that the police are really stretched right now. A lot of them are away on stress leave and so on. So it's got to be nipped in the bud. Have you heard of the broken window syndrome? You ever heard of this phrase?
No, I haven't. No.
So it's an interesting concept that was, I forget who coined the phrase, but it was in the 70s when I believe it was either New York or Detroit, one of the big American cities. And the cop said something like, he was working with the mayor, and they basically said, when you see one broken window or one tiny tag or graffiti, you have to nip it in the bud right away, because it always leads to petty crime very soon, and then the area degenerates. And then when you have public daytime crime, like sort of theft, say in stores or on the streets, they've lost the city, and then you have to completely invent policing, because what you're doing, people aren't afraid of you anymore. People don't respect the law. We're seeing it more in the States. You see a lot of that now with the crazy stuff going on there. But I don't know. Sudbury has a little. We have our own issues downtown. I think we have our own issues.
Well, we do have local issues, right? And this is a local. We talk about Sudbury News, but at the same time, we're a part of the province, the country, North America, and the world eventually. If you want to get technical, the universe, but we won't go there yet. But so social issues that are universal affect us here just as much as they do other places. Yeah. There are kind of movements towards when you see on a larger scale the absence of respect for law, you then see that's a sign of the beginnings of a breakdown of a society, because the only way you have a structured society, that's a safe society, let's say, one that we're used to having, is everybody adhering to laws and laws being enforced, and recognizing that you have to, and if you don't, you're punished, and all these things, right? And so a law-abiding society is an orderly society, which in turn is a safe society. But we are seeing this trend, like you said, and I think we're just seeing the beginnings of it. Because if you just see people can just live on your lawn and nothing gets done about it, and then no one's being held accountable to live in front of my house and use my water, my electricity, tap into my whatever, and no one's coming to help me. Well, what am I going to do then? Am I going to take it upon myself to kick someone off my lawn? Now are the police going to come? Now, if they don't come even then, now it's just up to me to, it's kind of like the law of the jungle again. It's just like anybody for themselves. And then once that starts happening, you can kind of just imagine some of these movies we've been watching for,
Yeah, very true. I think, and there's so many causes, right? It's such a complex thing. That we can't solve it here, but there's definitely, we need supports on the social end. I think there's mental health, and drug addiction is a huge issue. Obviously, everybody knows this. And then on the policing side, I think, they need some support too. I mean, a lot of people are very, very anti-police, but I think I would say I would be very pro-police training and support them so that they can work with the social workers and the community development officers and all those organizations, because that's a complex issue. I mean, it even goes back to real estate prices and the price of rent. There's people who weren't originally at risk, and now I was talking with someone at there's a food bank. I walked one of these years. I say hello to her a lot, and talking. She said it's changed a lot. That the clients that are coming in there now, it's not what you would expect. It's people who have jobs, simply have to decide: am I paying for rent or am I paying for food? So they pay rent and they have no money left. And if you take that a few steps further, you can get pretty desperate. And if you combine that with a bit of, maybe if there's an addiction issue or a mental health issue, then you're on the street in a year. And then I just found out we are going to be down at, behind the beer store on Lawrence Street, Energy Court. There's going to be a safe injection site brought in there.
I was just about to bring that up. You gave your own segue there, Pierre, because I was going to say, in Sudbury, you mentioned the crosses the last time you were on the show, and you said what a contrast as you come into the city, you go over the Bridge of Nations, which is pretty, wow, all these flags, and you see the downtown, and it looks okay. It's kind of clean enough looking for a downtown, and then immediately you get to this on your left. A bunch of crosses on the corner, and it's juxtaposed against the theater center and Tom Davies Square, and you ask yourself, what are these crosses for? And then when you find out, it's like, wow, these are all the deaths due to overdoses. And interesting. So we do have I think the argument was made during the pandemic of, I think we have an opioid pandemic, maybe even more than we had a COVID pandemic, and not as much was being done about that as was being done about the former. So this brings up the new safe injection site that is, in between Independent Grocer and downtown kind of thing behind the beer store off of Lorne. And so, what are your thoughts about that? Is it a good thing? Is it a detrimental thing? Are there good and bad things about it?
It's kind of, for me, it's sort of the same argument as owning a gun. Let's just go really controversial. It's not, violence is not pleasant, but the fact that people can't, in the States especially, but you need to defend yourself. You have to be violent to defend yourself. So in the same way with safe injection, I know a lot of people don't like it. It's unpleasant, but in my view, I've thought about this a lot, and I think when I look at places like Portugal, I think is a good example, where they use those sites as a way to communicate and to help the people who are on the fringes. So what happens is they can track them. So you don't have to use your name, but you can get a number so that they can test your blood, they can test your health, you can talk to doctors. So over time, it becomes a stepping stone to get help. And short term, it prevents overdoses immediately, because there's going to be a nurse in there and clean needles and all that stuff. So I know it's a touchy topic. I would rather somebody shooting up in a trailer than in my backyard. That's pretty much, it's inevitable. And then after that, I think we can build on more long-term solutions. We have 3 levels of government who can't figure that out. So I don't know what to say about that. So I just don't feel we can forget a whole group of people because they're drug addicts. I think they're human beings. So I think we have to find we have to do something to help them, get them out of that pit for now, and then slowly hold their hands and get them, some more help. That's kind of how I feel.
You bring up a really good point, and I think it's the point that I felt from it. I felt it's not a complete solution the way that it is right now. It's not like, oh, good, we have the trailer where people can inject themselves safely with a nurse, and then end of story. That doesn't.
No.
It does something. It does. It's like saying, oh yeah, the way to a really productive day is getting up in the morning. Okay, good. You're up. That's a good beginning to a productive day. But if you stop there, your day isn't going to be very productive. So the next thing needs to be done, like was you said. What's the end goal here? Like, do we want individuals to just continue to inject themselves safely and then continue and that's it? Or do we want people to wean off and rehabilitate and, kind of get on their feet and have a productive life kind of thing, right?
That's obviously the ultimate goal, and that's a whole infrastructure that needs to happen. Is huge. I heard one idea on a podcast, and I forget who said it, but he was in the inner city of, I don't know, an American inner city, a bad one. And he talked about, and I thought this could work in Sudbury as well. His idea was, he said that the crux of it, whether you're a drug addict or mentally ill or just homeless, whatever the situation, if you don't have a room with a lock and your own bed and a place to bathe, you have no dignity and no safety. And that is the basic fundamental kind of, even before food, right? Shelter and feeling. Imagine not feeling clean, and you're on the street. Like there's a girl I see downtown all the time. She has no shoes, and I was the other day, and she's barefoot walking downtown. So there's this. How can you possibly start improving your life, even if you want to, when you don't have that safety and that. So I think the idea this guy had, it was kind of brilliant. I'm sure it would be very difficult for red tape. He was doing an assessment of all the vacant buildings in the tough areas and getting small agencies to rent out the space and convert them, not into just flop houses, but if you live here, you have to commit to 4 hours a day of fixing the building up, painting it, cleaning, whatever it is. You have to do some drug counseling, some training. So all the little social services that aren't, it's not like you're going to get locked away in rehab for 30 days. You got a key, a bedroom. Here's some rules. If you live here, you've got all these services. And it's funded in small scale by different agencies and different companies and so on. And then so what they do is it might be 4 rooms and there's one volunteer and one paid social worker. So what they're doing, I think it was Baltimore, Maryland, actually. I'm going to look this up because it was a really interesting thing. And the idea was just over time, it would just be very small scale, interventions, I guess you could say, into vacant buildings. And over time, it's a stepping stone. The people who are more high functioning will eventually be able to get a decent job, and might take a couple of years. But they're not going to get there ever without a lot of hand-holding, right? So we have to decide, are we going to hand-hold and push a little bit? Or are we just going to say, I don't want anything to do with them. I'm going to run over them with my car, which is where we're going to end up.
So along those lines, we have Jerome, who contributes quite a bit, commenting on the show, says, how about people who've been on methadone for 20 years? How is this helping? And he's witnessed that firsthand. So what do we say to that kind of a thing?
Yeah, I don't know enough about drug rehabilitation. To me, I just use logic. If you've been repeating the same pattern and it's it's not really changing anything, then you need to change the pattern. Like something's not right? So maybe I don't know what to say about that. I know the methadone clinics are very profitable. That's all I can say. I know that if you're a doctor and you own a methadone clinic, you're making more per head than you are treating patients as a GP. So let's just leave that on the table.
Yeah, and without getting...
and there's an industry too,
Yeah, and we don't need to get on a soapbox or anything, but you just mentioned a fact, and there's nothing wrong with facts. And it's interesting I was in Emerge the other day.
Mm-hmm.
And whenever I'm there, I analyze. I can't help analyzing wherever I'm at, and I just, again, I know I live in a broken health system. In a country that has a broken healthcare system. There's many problems with it, and so I was able to witness it firsthand. Mm-hmm. And I felt like I was an animal in a way, like if I was cattle being led into the stall. I had to follow the arrows and stand here, and then next, and someone doesn't even look you in the eye as they're taking health card, please. They swipe your health card and go sit down, wait for someone else to call you. And a guy comes out of another room, calls your name, you come in, you're treated similar. What are you here for? Just types it as you're saying it. Okay, go sit down. Someone will call your name. And
that's the hospital. That's not, some storefront drug center. That's supposed to be.
And I could be a billionaire or whatever, and that's my healthcare system. That it's public. It's something that we all have to go through. Now, the point being, these methadone clinics aren't in the same vein. Like, these doctors are making a separate kind of money over a separate thing. It to me isn't part of that public system. It's more of a private thing in a way. A doctor gets a methadone clinic. It's not like multiple doctors will come in and they all put in their time and the money just goes into, our public healthcare system. So this is a bit of an issue when you talk about public healthcare and universal healthcare. This is a little bit different of a situation.
Yeah, I think so. People talk about public and private healthcare. Our healthcare system is private. It's just managed. It's just the people at the top are bureaucrats. Everything else about our healthcare system is private. I work for. I have a friend who's a doctor, and I help him with his database and just his computer stuff, because he's not very good at that. And his wife manages all the patients and everything, and they have a lot of files. So I go over there about once a month, and I just set up I check their Excel, I check all that stuff. And it's a business. It's I'm looking at this, and I had no idea how a doctor's practice runs. And I know how much they charge per person. He's an amazing doctor, and I won't tell you his name because everyone's going to want to go see him. He spends way too much time with patients, but he doesn't care. He'll phone you at 11 at night to check on you. He that's just how he is. He's an old school doctor. So he's not a good businessman at all, but he doesn't care. He doesn't care. He's committed, right? And
I like the fact that you did say, though, it is a business, because we don't realize that.
I've seen his taxes. I've seen all his, and it's expensive to run that business. I mean, he has just costs that you don't think about, and that's just a small practice. And so if he were to open a drug rehab center, which is not his thing, it's obviously you have to have nurses and you have to have equipment, all these things. Just the patient, the rate per person is much higher. So his income would probably, I don't know, I'm going to say increase by 150%.
Now, I know you have to leave in like a minute, but I just wanted to kind of make the point of the business, the healthcare, universal healthcare, as opposed, because I know there's a big push in the United States to get Canadian healthcare because we get free healthcare. I know I'm doing stuff with my hand here, but anyways, we get free healthcare. But it's not. Our health cards are like debit cards to the medical establishment. Can I have your health card, please? Same thing as, can I have your debit? How are you paying for this today? Well, you're paying for it with your tax dollars, and that's your health card. And everything has a price. Like, they are charging the government every time you swipe your health card. There's a price. So every time you go to Emerge, I don't know what the price is, but it's going to be, let's say, $100 a head. They're going to charge the government $100 for you being there. Everything has a price. And I think if it was transparent, we saw how much everything cost. Mm-hmm. And maybe even the reason why you go into Emerge and you go to one person, then you go to another person, you go back to another person. Oh, they can charge 3 times because they assessed you 3 times. We don't know some of the bloatedness that's done and how it could be, being taken advantage of because it's not transparent. Whereas in the States, you get your bill. You know that time in Emerge cost you that much. You knew the needle cost that much. You knew all the costs, but we don't know that here. But there is a cost. It is a business. Every single service you get costs a certain amount of money that the doctors are charging for.
I think there would be more innovation too. I mean, let's just compare it. Let's look at the post office. When FedEx came around, everybody said, nobody would ever pay for that. That's crazy. We have the post office. Look what happened to the post office, within a year of FedEx. They had to ramp it up. In the States, it's a different thing. Their post office is a nightmare. Ours is
That's
a little
where the
better.
term going postal come from, right? Because you had disgruntled postal workers.
Look what happened. I mean, if you have a package that you need to get in 24 hours, where are you going to go? Right now, you're going to go to the Shoppers Drug Mart post office, or you're going to call FedEx? It's
the private industry does a better job because they're more accountable, because they're accountable to the customers, and they're accountable, when their services have to be delivered right? Or you're going to go to someone else. And when you just have one size fits all.
Yeah, it doesn't mean you're going to get out the post office because you have to have these basic services. But I really think that innovation happens and we'll come up with ideas, new ways to do things, and it just lights a fire under everybody, and it makes everything better. It kind of, the cream rises, right? Whereas if you hold everything back and you say, no, can't do that, then the doctor's going to go, I don't care about that, and this is what I'm do. I'm not going to bother that. I'm not going to call that patient. That's my time. Those kinds of things. Eventually customer service becomes it's more about bureaucrat service, which is an example of what you described. I remember being in emergency as a kid. It was fun, but it didn't have that awful Soviet feeling that it does now. I don't know. Maybe I'm romanticizing my childhood. I don't know. It just felt different, and I think there people in the system are tired, and there's a lot of opportunity and a lot of problems there to fix. So, but 100%. I think it's letting people treat those issues and letting ideas surface. I think that's the way to do it.
Yeah.
Well, we just opened a can of worms and I have to go.
Yeah, no. And this is the thing. This is a really in-depth conversation. And this is why we have this, because we can kind of unpack things. And we are under a time restraint. You have to go on. You got a new gig going on. But so looking forward to having you coming back as soon as possible. And I know the listeners and the viewers are too. The best guest ever, Pierre. You are the man.
All right. Okay. All right. You take care. Have a good day, everybody.
Have a great one. Okay. Ciao. That was Pierre Bonhomme here on the show. Best guest ever. He's going to have that title until he's dethroned somehow by someone, somewhere, at some point. So thanks for being with us, Pierre. Pierre Bonhomme. He's a long friend. And yeah. So, and Jerome, obviously our number one commenter definitely is basically saying beat cancer using natural medicine, but cost a lot of money, because when you use something that's not a part of the medical system, you're going to see the cost because you have to pay for it yourself. But if you went through the other and you had to pay for it as well, it might even cost you even more. You just don't see it. Now, when you go to your favorite restaurant, or you gas up at the pumps, or you're buying whatever you got, 13% on top of whatever you're paying for is astronomical. When I spent 2 years living in the United States, when I went to buy something, okay, so here's Pierre says the trick is to have one controversial topic and rant a bit about it. Yeah, exactly. Well, that's the thing. I mean, when you unpack something, it's kind of like I felt in university. You take a class on something and you're like, how much can you talk about this one subject? And then you take it and you're like, whoa, they went down to every little morsel of information about this particular topic, and we're able to really unpack it. And this is similar to that. But yeah, so when I would buy something, when I was in the States, it was similar to the price that it said on the board or whatever, right? Like, okay, you're going to buy a hamburger and it's $2, it would end up being $2.04 or something like that. It wasn't much difference with their taxes. And here, you pay $10, you're paying $1.30 more on $10. $100, you're paying $13 more. $10,000. You know what I mean? So you see how there's a lot of money in taxes, and so that's paying for your health care. It's hard for us as Canadians if you don't get a chance to compare it and see. And even services. The services are way better. Doctors are vying for your business down there. They know if they treat you well and they help you in every way, shape, or form, you're going to come back, and they don't want you going to another doctor. They want you to keep coming back to them because that's their living, and they're accountable to you. They're not accountable to the system. Here, you can't even get a doctor. You can't get customer service in the health. You're just lucky if there's a nice person who's serving you. That's it. They have no reason to be nice. They're in a union that's going to cover them. They don't have to be nice to you. It's terrible. when you look at it. It's systematically wrong is what it is. And when I hear the United States talking about, we need healthcare like they have in Canada where everyone has it. Sure, there's an argument to be made for those who aren't able to afford it, but there are solutions for that. And we can, as citizens of the world, first of all, come up with those to take care of each other. But universal healthcare is definitely, it's just a reason to, as Jerome said, it's very fraudulent. And it's giving you many opportunities, and it's almost saying, go ahead, be fraudulent, because there's every opportunity in the world. And unless you're honest, there's all temptations in the world to just go ahead and fraud the system. So anyways, we'll be back with a little bit of weather, getting a little bit lighter here, some weather, some sports, and some of the local stories that we just want to be on top of, and we'll be right back. As promised, local weather today. It is currently 10 degrees, and humidity is about 95%, so a little humid, but today it's going to be mainly sunny. Increasing cloudiness this afternoon. Fog patches dissipating this morning. Wind becoming 20 kilometers from the west, gusting to 40 this morning. A high of 25. The humidex, though, will feel like 27 degrees. Tonight, clearing. This evening, wind will be southwest, about 20 kilometers, and 14 will be the low. And then Wednesday, mainly sunny. Increase in cloudiness in the morning. Then showers beginning late in the afternoon. Risk of a thunderstorm late in the afternoon. And the high will be 27. But the humidex will feel much like 30. So hot one tomorrow. And I'm not sure why we have that per se, but we're going to get to that. The extended forecast is, again, like we mentioned, showers tomorrow. It'll feel like 30 degrees. So it's warm and wet tomorrow. Thursday, much of the same. Friday, they're saying 30% chance of showers, so we're looking at getting out of the showers by then. And then the long term is your regular mix of sun and cloud, because nobody knows what's going to happen then. So that is your weather for today, and we'll be right back. Got some sports here for you. This was just released. The Sudbury Wolves Sports and Entertainment Group, Greater Sudbury. After shutting down the Quint Skyhawks in the quarterfinals a little over a week ago, the Sudbury Junior Spartans will face the Peterborough Wolverines on Saturday, July 30th, which is this Saturday, for a spot in the finals. So if they win semifinals this Saturday, they'll be in the finals after going undefeated in the regular season. Yay! The Junior Spartans were hoping to set the tone in their quarterfinals matchup as the top-seeded team of the division, led by Steven Sola's 254 passing yards, Zidane Allen's 126 rushing yards. The Junior Spartans paved their way to a 41-0 shutout last Sunday to clinch the semifinals to be played this Saturday. Saturday's game will be sponsored by Technica Mining. Tickets are available at the gate, and for kids 12 and under, they get in free. But for everyone else, it's $10. So there you go. Junior Spartans semifinals in action this Saturday at the James Jerome Field. But we also have some other news for you in terms of sports. The Sudbury Wolves are looking for the next, they call it the, become the next in-game host. They're having what they call Wolves Idol. So they're trying to make it a little bit fun. Wolves Idol, looking for the next in-game host. Some info on that. Make it larger because I can't read anymore in my getting up to be older age. The Sudbury Wolves are excited to announce they've launched Wolves Idol in search of the next in-game host for the 2022-23 season. The Sudbury Wolves are offering an incredible opportunity to work with the team in a super hands-on role as the game in-game host. Interact with fans as you participate in giveaways, games, and on the ice, and be a huge part of the game day experience, which they are. When you're at a game, it basically has a huge entertainment kind of feel when you're there. A lot of the music, the lights, the game itself is pretty action-packed. And then in between periods, you have not only the Timbits hockey, which is my favorite part of the Sudbury Wolves game. You have the in-game host who's out there to give away free stuff, and who doesn't get excited when they come out and they got free stuff, right? So last season's in-game host is now the group sales and ticket service representative, Chelsea Perron, and she shares her experience as a host. She says it never felt like work coming to the arena and interacting with the fans and working with such a great team. This role is a rare opportunity to truly is an unforgettable experience, and she recommends it. Anyone who is scared of a mic and has a big personality, to give it a shot and audition. You'll have so much fun in this role. It's a thrill. So Sudbury Wolves Sports and Entertainment is the parent company for the Sudbury Wolves, and recently they announced the new exciting $600,000 video board purchased by Dario Zulich, which will elevate the overall in-game experience and make this role even more exciting. It's true, because, with the old Jumbotron, or so they called it, you could barely even see it, and it was kind of old, and this will have a lot of things going on it to go along with what you're doing and announcing the things you're announcing. So the deadline to enter has been extended to August the 14th. To enter, submit your audition video on social media or email it to office@sudburywolves.com and explain to them why you want to be the next in-game host. Bring your energy and enthusiasm, and it could be your face on the new and improved Jumbotron for the 50th anniversary season. So if you're a huge narcissist, no, I'm just kidding. No, if you want to be able to interact and you have something you feel is basically a calling that you have, that you want to get in front of people and you want more of a public persona, and that's part, like myself, I went to school for public relations, communications. That's similar to what I'm doing here. Like if you have that kind of a aspiration to do something like that, then this is for you, and you really should. Just even the audition itself will be good practice for getting in front of a camera and doing your thing. So anyways, thanks for doing this, Sudbury Wolves, making it a little bit exciting instead of just send your resume to Sudbury Wolves, and we'll, this way you'll be able to see the personality of the person, see if they got a little bit of zip in their zang, and be the right person for the job. So congratulations to you for doing that, and hopefully we'll be announcing the winner of that, obviously, when they are announced. But it's a little bit of a ways to go because the deadline is now extended to August 14th. We'll have more about that in the future. We'll be right back. And as we do and like to do is basically go over what news stories we've been following, and we share them on our Sudbury News Facebook page, so you can catch all of the stories there. And we don't share all of the stories in town. We just share the ones that that are, I don't know. It's kind of like I'm the moderator, I guess you can say. So I try and keep it a little bit things that are conversational. And if I know we're having guests on or whatever, maybe some things that we can unpack a little bit. But things that are pertinent and important to the community, I will share. I try and stay away from some of the sensationalist stuff or things that aren't really good journalism per se. And if I feel at least I can discuss it, point it out, I'll share it. But yeah, so if you're wondering why are they sharing this and they don't share other things, yeah, it's basically a call on my own, and I'm not perfect by any means, and so yeah, we just share things we think will be interesting to talk about and unpack. And one of them being Laurentian, and its insolvency, and it's going through it, and they're responsible to their creditors. So is there going to be accountability? Is there not going to be accountability? And so it looks like there is going to be some accountability. And okay. Oh, sorry. Yeah. No. Miles is saying that it looks like there might be somebody spamming, but no, that is actually Pierre Bonhomme, our former guest that we just had on. That is his Facebook handle. So Bonhomme, Pierre Bonhomme, Pierre Bonhomme, Bon, Peter, Obi-Wan Kenobi. He's blended his name in with Obi-Wan Kenobi kind of thing for his Facebook page. So no, he's not spamming, just, but thanks for letting us know that, because if there was somebody doing that, then we definitely want to know about it. So Laurentian University is, so Pierre's just sharing from the gym. So thanks for doing that, Pierre. And once everyone gets to know your, we're having a conversation here. So Miles is wondering if it's Top Glove Boxing that you're sharing from, but I think it's from your home gym, as far as I know. Anyways, we'll let you guys carry on that conversation as a sidebar. Laurentian University going bankrupt is big news, and it should be national big news and continue to be so. But we have now the announcement that it is Top Glove. Well, there you go. Awesome. I thought it was your home gym. Say hi to everybody there. Say hi to Gord for me if he's there. It should be national news because this doesn't happen every day. But we've just had an announcement that the president and vice president will retire. They're going to retire. They're not being fired. They're going to take possibly an early retirement. They've announced. So I think that's a reason for us to feel that there's some kind of retribution happening. I know we had a lot of the board of directors resign before a lot of the details came out, and a new board of directors came in. So maybe that's hoping that some people would feel that there's been some retribution. But the fact that our president and vice president are going to take early retirement, I don't know, is that enough for you? Is that enough to feel that, yes, the people that are taking some responsibility? I wonder if they're taking a little bit of a pay cut, possibly, more than likely not. Are they getting a little bit less in retirement? Maybe so, by retiring a little bit earlier. What is their retirement? What are they expecting to make when they go on their early retirement? Is it more than most people get paid for full-time work? Possibly. These types of things. What about the former president who's now running our hospital? We talked about the healthcare system earlier. Is there going to be any accountability? Is he accountable? Did he contribute to the bankruptcy in any way, shape, or form? Has anyone looked into that or asked that? These are the huge questions that I don't see being talked about or being mentioned in our local, by our local journalists. So we have Pierre's continuing to share some really cool, in-depth information there in terms of YouTube videos if anyone wants to do a deep dive into our conversation earlier. So thanks very much, Pierre, for doing that. It really does, it really unpacks some of the topics that we're talking about here, and the conversation and the learning can continue on after our short time on the show. So these are the questions we're asking about Laurentian, and and how to prevent things like this happening in the future. But accountability is something, we have less and less accountability in our society today. We have less and less people voting and thinking that it's going to make any difference. And this only adds to that disassociation from our people that are voted in to make decisions on our behalf. And oh yeah, so Jerome wonders if we even have local journalists or local journalism. Yeah, I do think so. I do appreciate them. I appreciate what they do. Could they do a little more? Yes, as well. They also have editors and things. When they go out, they're basically told maybe what things to cover, maybe what things are off limits, possibly. We live in a small town, which is it's a little bit of a microcosm, similar to the province and then similar to our federal government. Things happen there that, decisions are made, people are influenced. There is the boys club still. These people hang out at the same places, they belong to the same organizations and things like that. And it's like when Pierre came on, he goes, I'd love to talk about some things, but I just can't, because the 6 degrees of separation in a community like this are, 2 degrees of separation, 1 degree of separation sometimes, right? So it's not, it's not as easy. But Pierre, you make a good point here that local citizen journalism, similar to, I think, of what we're doing here, right? We're just asking questions. We're able to get on YouTube or Facebook and say, how come? What's going on there? And isn't that journalism? I had a grade 7 and grade 5 and 7 teacher who was one of the best teachers in the world, period. And he encouraged us to read newspapers. So imagine in grade 5, your teacher saying you should read newspapers and be informed. And this is how you read newspapers and you think critically. Imagine that, grade 5. This particular teacher had long hair, a beard. He wore one yellow sock sometimes and one purple sock, and he would show us. He wore a Rolling Stones t-shirt, jeans. He had 3 earrings in the same ear. Back then in the late 70s, early 80s, that was like, whoa. Anyways, born and raised in North Bay, lived in the Sioux. I think he spent some time in Timmins possibly. So each earring represented the newspaper from those particular cities. He had a nugget, a star, and something else representing the other newspaper. And he had those newspapers in our classroom, and he had his own monetary system in the classroom. So his last name was Leboeuf, meaning the beef. So he had little paper monopoly money that he made and made it himself. And they were called beef bucks. And every time he did something notably good or whatever that contributed to the class, he would just say, you know what? You earned 5 beef bucks today. And you'd be able to accumulate them. And he was the first person in the city, at the time it was Sault Ste. Marie, to buy a computer. And we had the first computer in a classroom in the city, as far as I know. And when you accumulated enough of these beef bucks, you could, instead of doing your work, go on that computer. And while people were working, you could just play around on the games, new games they came up with that were, by today's standards, really darn basic. But back then, they were mind-blowing. So all the students would be looking at that person with envy, saying, they get to play on the computer. And I have to do my work. Well, I'm going to try to do my best in class to be a good student and do the things. And he wasn't. He just asked us to do good things. It wasn't like he was asking us to do strange things to earn beef bucks. Just do your homework, participate in class, add to the class, behave at least. Don't be interrupting students. He loved the good sense of humor, so he wasn't telling us to be quiet, sit up straight, those old school types of things. And so it really helped the class to normalize and have goals to work towards for fun things, and it was fun. But all this to say, because we started off with local journalism, yeah, learning what the floppy disks were the computer. It might have been cassette tapes, but I think this was a floppy disk, if I remember correctly, but could be wrong. I think there was the VIC. I think it was a VIC. Commodore. Anyways, I don't remember exactly. But he would have the 3 newspapers from Northern Ontario, maybe a Toronto Star too, or a National Post, something for national news. And he would encourage us to go read the newspapers. And then he taught us what journalism was. And he talked about the 5 W's and H. Who, what, where, when, what, how, and why of good reporting. And he said, look for that in the story. Look for the where. Where is it? What is it talking about? Why is it happening? Who's involved? How did this come to be? All of these questions. And it's amazing how, 5 years, in grade 5, my teacher influenced me into what I later noticed there was huge gaps in the way reporting was done nationally, internationally, provincially, locally. Just is. And you know what it really boils down to, ladies and gents, is just that. The 5 W's and H. And really getting to the bottom of a story. And you wonder why it's not really reported that way. And then you wonder, maybe there's influences in there that are possibly, paying for the journalism to be done. And we know that a lot of government grants pay for our journalism today, which should tell you something. How do you keep a government non-accountable? Just pay for the journalists, and you don't bite the hand that feeds you. So that's it in a nutshell, without any unpacking that. I'm just making a statement, and I'm saying, why would you try to get to the bottom of a story if you knew that meant that you wouldn't be funded anymore? Really, honestly, like if you knew you're doing your job and you did something that would jeopardize your living, you more than likely wouldn't do that thing. So anyways, that's it for our show today. A little bit of a rant going off the Laurentian insolvency, but stay tuned now on CKLU for Earshot Daily. We'll be back same time, same place as tomorrow with maybe some more controversial stuff. You never know. So thanks for listening to us and watching. We'll be back tomorrow. Ciao.
This is Sudbury News Talk on the morning shift.